Welcome to Seattle, a place where mountains watch silently, where oceans breathe against glass towers, and where ambition moves faster than the clouds above. This is not just another American city. It is a paradox. Calm, yet restless. Beautiful, yet unforgiving. Have you ever wondered how a place surrounded by nature becomes one of the most powerful engines of modern technology? In less than 2 centuries, this city has burned to the ground, rebuilt itself, struck gold without mining, and reshaped the global economy. From quiet indigenous shores to a skyline driven by giants like Amazon and Microsoft, Seattle tells a story that feels almost improbable. So here is the question. What makes a city endure, evolve, and dominate without losing its soul? Stay with me, because by the end of this journey, you may not just understand Seattle, you may start questioning the cities we build and the lives we choose to live. Seattle stands as the largest city in Washington, but size alone doesn't define it. Its true power lies in its position, a gateway between continents, a bridge between cultures. The Port of Seattle pulses with global trade, quietly linking North America to the vast Asia-Pacific. Goods move, ideas move, people move. But what happens to a place that never stops moving? Does it grow stronger, or does it slowly lose itself? Geography here is not just a backdrop. It is destiny. Seattle rests on a narrow strip of land, pressed between Puget Sound and Lake Washington, water on both sides, mountains rising in the distance, forests closing in. It feels contained yet infinite. You see hills instead of flat roads, mist instead of clear skies, and a horizon that always seems just out of reach. Could it be that this landscape shapes not only the city, but also the minds of those who live here? The climate tells its own quiet story. Rain falls often, but rarely with violence. It lingers, soft, persistent, almost thoughtful. The sky stays gray, the air cool, the light diffused. Some might call it gloomy, others call it honest. Because here there is no illusion of constant sunshine, no forced brightness, just reality, steady and unfiltered. Does living under such skies make people more introspective, more creative, or simply more resilient? Long before glass towers and tech campuses, this land belonged to the Duwamish people. They lived with the rhythm of the water, building communities along Elliott Bay, fishing, trading, surviving with balance. They did not conquer the land, they understood it. Then came change, slow at first. Then unstoppable in 1792, George Vancouver arrived, marking the beginning of a new chapter. But was it discovery or disruption? By 1851, settlers known as the Denny Party reached these shores, carrying ambition, hope, and a very different vision of the future. They saw opportunity where others saw harmony. They built, expanded, claimed. The city took shape, named after Chief Seattle, a gesture of recognition, yet layered with irony, because honoring a name does not always mean preserving a legacy. What does it mean to remember if we forget to understand? Seattle's early years were defined by raw industry. Logging dominated the economy, forests fell, timber flowed, and the city grew. It was not elegant, but it was effective. Then came a turning point, the Klondike Gold Rush. Thousands passed through Seattle, chasing dreams of wealth in the north. The city became a supply hub, a launch point for ambition, but how many of those dreams were ever realized, and how many were left behind in silence? In 1889, disaster struck. The Great Seattle Fire consumed much of downtown, buildings collapsed, streets turned to ash. For a moment, everything seemed lost. But here is where Seattle reveals its core. It rebuilt, quickly, deliberately, stronger than before. Brick replaced wood, planning replaced chaos. The city did not just recover, it transformed. Isn't it often in destruction that true identity is revealed? As the 20th century dawned, the city shifted its gaze from the earth to the sky. Shipbuilding and commerce expanded the piers, but it was the roar of engines that would define the next era. In the year 1916, a small company began building planes in a timber shed. That company was Boeing, and it would go on to turn Seattle into the aviation capital of the world. The city survived the labor unrest of the 1919 general strike and the crushing weight of the Great Depression. When World War II arrived, the factories hummed with a new, urgent purpose. Thousands of people moved to the region to build the bombers that would win the war. This was the birth of the middle class in the Northwest, a time of steady jobs and suburban expansion. But every boom has a shadow, a dependency on a single industry that can vanish in an instant. Can a city ever be truly stable when its heart is tied to the fluctuating demands of the global market? The late 20th century brought a different kind of revolution, one that was silent and digital. In the year 1979, two young men moved their small software company from Albuquerque back to their hometown. Microsoft did not just create Windows, it created a new ecosystem of wealth and innovation. Soon after, in the year 1994, an online bookstore started in a garage in Bellevue. Amazon would eventually grow to consume entire city blocks, turning the South Lake Union neighborhood into a high-tech campus. This shift turned Seattle into a global powerhouse, a magnet for the brightest minds on the planet. But this prosperity came with a heavy price tag. The cost of living soared, and the grit of the old city began to be polished away by glass and steel. Are we losing the soul of our communities in exchange for the convenience of a one-click delivery? The contrast between the billionaire and the person sleeping on the sidewalk is a tension that defines the modern era. Seattle's cultural influence has always been far greater than its population might suggest. It is a city of seekers and creators, people who find inspiration in the long, dark winters. In the 1950s and 60s, the jazz scene on Jackson Street was a melting pot of talent, where legends like Ray Charles honed their craft. Decades later, the world's ears turned toward the Northwest again as the distorted guitars of grunge took over the airwaves. Bands like Nirvana and Pearl Jam gave a voice to a generation's angst, born from the damp basements of rainy suburbs. Is it the weather that makes the music so heavy and introspective? Even the way the world drinks coffee was reimagined here. In the year 1971, the first Starbucks opened its doors at Pike Place Market. What started as a small shop selling roasted beans became a global ritual. Seattle taught the world how to linger over a latte while the rain taps against the window. Today, the city faces the consequences of its own success. The growth in the year 2024 and 2025 shows no signs of stopping, but the infrastructure is groaning under the weight. Traffic congestion has become a permanent feature of the landscape. a slow-moving river of steel on the Interstate 5. Housing affordability has pushed the dream of homeownership out of reach for many who grew up here. Homelessness has become a crisis that challenges the city's progressive identity. How do we build a city that is both a hub for global capital and a home for the vulnerable? The leaders of Seattle are forced to rethink urban planning, looking toward high-speed rail and sustainable density. Yet, despite these struggles, the city remains a beacon of hope for those who value innovation and nature. It is a place where you can work on a quantum computer in the morning and be hiking in an old-growth forest by the afternoon. The story of Seattle is a story of resilience and the constant need to adapt. It is a city that has been burned to the ground, soaked by endless rain, and transformed by technology. It stands as a balance between the raw power of nature and the relentless ambition of the human mind. Surrounded by water, it knows the importance of flow. Surrounded by mountains, it knows the importance of perspective. As we look toward the future, we must ask ourselves what we truly value in a place. Is it the height of the skyscrapers or the health of the trees? Is it the speed of the internet or the strength of the neighborhood? Seattle teaches us that growth without soul is just expansion, but innovation with a sense of place can change the world. Perhaps the lesson is that we must always leave room for the fog, for the unknown, and for the voices that came before us. As you walk through the streets of the Emerald City today, you feel the vibration of a place that is never satisfied with the status quo. You see the Space Needle, built for the 1962 World's Fair, still pointing toward the stars. You smell the salt air from the waterfront, a reminder that the ocean is always waiting to reclaim its own. What can you take away from the history of this place? Perhaps it is the realization that no matter how much we build, we are always guests of the environment. We must learn to build with the land, not just on top of it. We must learn that true wealth is found in the balance between our work and our surroundings. Do you live in a city that inspires you to be better, or one that just asks you to work harder? The answer might be found in the next rainy day, in the next cup of coffee, or in the next conversation with a stranger. Seattle remains one of the most dynamic and complex cities in the United States. It is a place of contradictions, where the world's richest men live miles away from pristine wilderness. It is a city that honors its indigenous roots while reaching for a digital future. If you have visited Seattle, you know the feeling of the mist on your face and the sight of Mount Rainier appearing through the clouds. It is a moment of clarity in a world that is often blurred. We hope this exploration has given you a deeper understanding of the forces that shape this unique corner of the world. History is not just a collection of dates. It is a living, breathing thing that moves through us. What will the history books say about the choices we make in the year 2025? Will we be remembered for our greed or for our creativity? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the heart of the Pacific Northwest. If you found value in this story, please subscribe to the channel and join our community of curious minds. We believe that by understanding our past, we can better navigate our future. Leave a comment below and let us know what you think of Seattle's evolution. Is it a model for the future or a warning of what happens when growth goes unchecked? We read every comment and appreciate your perspective. Remember to hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of our journey through the world's most fascinating places.